Hey there, and welcome back to Scrap with Penny, where paper meets story. Today we're going to be working with the Peartree Scrapbooker's Advent Calendar cut file. This will be day 8, and it's this traditions. I didn't have to think long about which one I wanted. We have a lot of traditions, and I thought this would be a great way to document traditions that go from season to season, and it could also serve as a great title page if you wanted to do a deep dive on your family traditions and do a little album. So I've got the cut file cut. I want it to be the star of the page, and so I elected to print my photos just under 2 by 2, so they'll mat up to a 2 by 2 finished picture. And I actually have quite a bit of journaling. I've got my journaling written and typed up, and I see it going on one side or the other of the cut file. So on the cut file, you could go top, left, right, bottom, and I think I'm going to go this route with it and kind of let the design evolve around the cut file itself. So the first thing I need to do is cut my insets for my letters, and I'm going to trim this 5th photo down on camera so you can see my little photo trimming hack. And we're going to get going, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So Dorothy Guinan at Scrapbooking Quebec shared that she uses low-tack mint tape to mark off her trimmer to get a consistent cut. And so I adopted that hack, and I cut 2 sides freely, and then I put my mint low-tack tape down and I bump up against it, and then I get a consistent cut, and all of my little squares are the same. And it's especially important. I was just taking some off the bottom there. You kind of want to pay attention to what side you're trimming. So now I'll have 5 little pictures that are identical in size, and to me that kind of matters when they're going to be close to one another. So this red basil tomato is going to be the background, and I pulled out this white wood grain, and it's going to sit on top of it. I've trimmed it to 11 1/4 squared, so that'll give me 1/8 red on each side. And I've got my cut file here. Let me stabilize this a little bit. This plaid paper is from Simple Stories Holly Jolly. Okay. So that's what we're looking at in the way of our cut file. And here's my journaling. I've got extra space around it because I'll trim it down, and I think I want to round this corner over here to kind of offset a lot of the boxy feeling that's going to happen when everything is a square. And I see my photos going across the bottom. Like this. And I'll mat them, and I'm not sure, I feel like they need to be matted in the same color as this, and I feel like there's a lot of red here, so that leans toward green. And I'm going to tell you that I'm planning on stitching inside of these letters in red. So what I've done is I've cut an offset. It's not an offset. I've cut a file that is the outside edge of this file, and I did that by doing release compound path and then taking out the middle of the file itself to just be left with this outside. I was careful to pick up to leave in the little shapes that would cut this out. So this will go underneath, and it will allow me to tape all of these insets down right onto it, and then I can use the line of the cut file itself as my border for my hole punch, so that I can get my little holes for my hand stitching. So this is kind of where we are, and what I think I'm going to do next is I need to back my holly leaf and my ornament, and then that would let me tape this to this, and then I could tape my plaid down and stitch on my letters. And I feel like I need to do that before I decide any other design decisions on photo mat and on any little die cut or sticker embellishments I would bring into the mix. So I think this is going to be so cute, and I'm going to get going. I'm going to pick probably just a green from the Holly Jolly. There's some ledger papers. Here's the little 6x8 pad. Here's the green dot. Oh yeah, that would be perfect. So I'm going to use this for the leaves, and then on the ornament I've got some gold that I might pull out for the stars themselves, and then I would just alternate, probably staying with a very solid red and green, alternating, either do red here and green here or vice versa, because I can't really bring in another pattern right on top of this plaid, in my opinion. I'll be back. So I'll do this manually, and I turned it over and I did pencil marks around the cut file, and then I'll get my scissors and I'll just come inside and trim it up until it fits. So I have my holly leaves, my holly berries, and my ornament backed, and I did go with a really subtle plaid right here, and then this is some gold We Are Memory Keepers paper that I got as a prize or a gift at some crop. It's got a really low sheen. I was going to go with a higher gloss gold paper, but I decided that the palette of this is a little more muted, but look how much that already pops off the page. So the next thing I need to do is tape this to this white backer, and then I can put my letters inside and my cut file will be ready to stitch on. So here it is with the offset. I'm sorry, I keep saying offset, but it's not. This right here is a cut that was made on the outside edge of the file, and I just have it on top now, and then I can lay all of my letters inside, and then I'm going to stitch on the edges. So I needed to be able to lie these flat against something that would hold the stitch, and I can't pop them up on foam. So that was the reason why I cut the outer edge of the cut file. Y'all, it's too cute. I just can't take it. Oh, it's going to be so nice when I've got it finished. Look at that. Okay. What I need to do next is clean up the fallout from back in the file. And then I think I can go ahead and tape down my white wood grain to my red tomato basil, and I can start stitching on my cut file. I don't know if I said, but I backed this ornament with this plaid and this ledger, and then I know that I talked about the holly leaves being this little dot. So this is all Simple Vintage Holly Jolly. Now what we're going to do next is mat this piece of Mente wood grain. Did I say it's from the Berrylicious line? So, but we're going to run our slats of wood east-west. So the 12 by 12 Misty is something I purchased back when Nicole McGork was encouraging us to stamp on our layouts on 2Ps. And then in 2020, when I started making cards, I picked up these acrylic corners on Etsy. Now the shop that I got them from no longer is in business, but I do link in every video description an alternate shop on Etsy that you can use to grab them, and they're $20 before shipping and tax, and it's a great little stocking stuffer or an item for your Christmas wish list. So when you have an 11¼ inch size square, you would use your 1/8 inch corner to provide your mat. It's going to be so cute. I have been wondering if you are playing along with the Advent calendar, and if you are, which one is your favorite? And if you are, have you looked at all the files, or are you opening them day by day? So Marie sent all the files at one time, but you can look at them in advance. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And now I think the next thing to do is to stitch on my letters. So I'm going to pause the video, poke my holes, and I'll be back. So my stitching is done. I'm not going to lie, it was a lot. But I think it's really going to pop on the page. I am not going to stitch inside the ornament and the holly because those are more like embellishments, and whatever die cuts I add down here or up here are not going to have stitching on them, so that's my choice for consistency there. I did want to say that if you are buying the pre-cut Advent files from Marie, this is the size that it comes in the pre-cut element. So it's about 6¼ wide by a little over 8 tall, and I matched my journal box to the dimensions. If you buy the download, of course you can size it up and size it down, and so toward that end, if you wanted to buy the download and size it down, you could shrink it down. You could have this as a nice centerpiece. If you wanted to do a title page, I said earlier, you could size it up. And so there's a lot of options with the file, and I just wanted to mention that this is the size it comes in the pre-cut form. Okay, so there's the back. I'm going to put it up on foam, and it's time to decide about my journaling. The red stitching does give me some ideas on the color, and I think right away what needs to happen is I need to get some repetition of this bright green. So I'm going to be looking for a mat for my photos down here, and possibly also for my journaling. I'm kind of unsure on the journaling. If I pop this up on foam, I could kind of nestle it under there, and maybe if I tape this side flat and put this side up on foam, then it would give it some movement. And I think I'm gonna round the corners for sure. So those are the next steps on the layout, and I will pause the recording and get some more done, and I'll be back. So I'm back. I have pulled some embellishments and I have matted my photos. So this paper, this little red paper, is the same that is right here on the ornament, and then the green paper is just from Simple Vintage Holly Jolly. So this Christmas kit had this basic paper that went with it, and I'm using the small 6x8 version of this ledger. I've got the foam here because on some of these, when I go to glue them down, I'm going to grab the foam element instead of the flat, and I'm going to tighten this up here. But I looked at Vicki Boutin, I looked at 49 in Market. I was just looking for something that would complement the cut file, and so I went to Santa's Village, and I like what I've got pulled. What I'll do is I'll start taping things down, and it should come together pretty quickly. I've got, I think, all of the decisions made, so I'll be back in a minute. Hey there, so I am back and it's done. And before I forget, I wanted to ask you, have you scrapbooked any of your traditions? This is a fun way, I think, to get some information down, create a fun little layout, and tell the stories of your family. There was a quote in a Hallmark movie and it really resonated with me. It said, "Traditions are the stories that families tell together." When I was putting the journaling together, I went back to that quote and included it because I think it's true. And this is just a little snapshot of some of our Christmas traditions, and I think the layout turned out really fun. I did go grab 3 brads. There's one here, here, and then up here. And when I went to adhere things, I went to get foam stars instead of the die cuts. And then right here, I converted this die cut to a foam sticker. And then I pulled in a little foam sticker here. I originally had a bigger element over here, and I just really couldn't make it work. And I thought, go for something smaller. And I eliminated some of the bulk up here. Just wanted to give it a little bit of dimension and depth by layering up some of the pine branches, and I think it's cute. So this is $49 and market, $49 and market, $49 and market. And then the rest of it is Simple Stories Santa's Village on the embellishments. And then all of the paper is Simple Stories, Simple Vintage Holly Jolly. So are you playing along with the Cutfiles from Marie for the Advent series? This is the Scrapbooker's Advent calendar. And remember, there's a December Advent calendar, which is geared towards 6x8. And then there is a Seasons Advent calendar, which is geared toward people that are not interested in scrapping Christmas right now. So it's not too late to grab the digital or the pre-cut files, and you can follow along on social media and see all of the examples. It has been fun for me to play with the Advent files. So I hope that you have had some fun while I have been working on this, and I would like to say a quick thank you to my subscribers. I appreciate you being here, and if you're new here and or you haven't yet subscribed, I would invite you to hit that subscribe button and join in on our community. I hope that you find some time to scrapbook during this busy month and play with paper, and I hope that you're having a great December. And as always, thanks for hanging out with me.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. I'll be back soon with more layouts, videos, and a little stash busted magic. So please come back and crop with me. Until next time, happy scrapping, and remember, this is where paper meets story. Bye-bye.